Welcome to the City of Petoskey City Council meeting for March 6th, 2023. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, United States of America. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Beck, would you please call roll?
Demore, present. Shields,
Here.
Wagner,
Here.
Walker, present. Murphy.
Present, we have a quorum. Now, we're going to hear from the Petoskey High School Sustainability Club. They've come to do a presentation, and you see that you have a great audience here looking around. The blue wall is here for you, so come on up to the podium and push the button so it goes green. And it's yours.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, good evening, City Council members. Thank you for having us today. My name is Ryder DeJulio.
Ben Peters. I'm Tommy Skinner.
And we're the Sustainability Club. And we're a group of students that are passionate about making our school more sustainable. So we'd like to start by thanking City Council member Walker for inviting us here today. And we've had a chance to present to the school board. We've also met with Superintendent Dr. Leslie, and both are very supportive of our ideas. So we're excited to share them here today. So we'll start with our club's background. If you want to go to the next slide. One more. So the Sustainability Club was founded in 2020 by Paige Simard and some other seniors, and they had the goal of getting solar panels installed in our school. And this is a lengthy process, so they weren't able to fully see it through while students at PHS, but that's why we're here to carry out their vision. And aside from working towards solar, we've done various sustainable activities in the community, such as hosting a Bear River cleanup. We've participated in solar tours, and we've also contacted other schools that have conducted similar projects to the one that we want to do. So what are our goals? Our main goal is to establish a renewable energy program in the public schools. And more specifically, we would like to install solar panels. And this will help us to achieve our second goal, which is to reduce energy consumption in our community. And as we work towards this, we want to continue to address other inefficiencies and spread more sustainable strategies.
Yeah. So one of the reasons we chose solar is that we found that solar has a really solid return on investment, and we'll have more details on the specific finances of that later. Solar also has a lot of good educational opportunities. It's one of the fastest growing career fields at 9.3% in 2021. We also did a survey of high school students last year of 200 students. We found that 93% of them were in support of a solar installation at the high school. And it would also let us be a community leader and sort of lead by example in pushing our community and our city towards being 100% renewable energy. Yeah, so traditionally with solar panels, usually you'd see them in like off-grid installations in remote locations. But one of the big benefits of having them sort of in a city on a power grid is that we don't have to rely on batteries for when the sun's not shining. So this lets us sort of sell the energy if we're producing any excess, and if we're not producing, say it's like at night or in the winter, we can still buy from the grid. So that lets us sort of scale up however much we want. And yeah.
So as far as how solar can help us to connect to our community, it can help us in the school with CTE classes. We can teach about different renewable energy technologies and jobs available. In physics, they can learn about energy transfer and loss that's involved with the different solar panels. In earth science and middle school science, they have renewable energy units already, and they would benefit from having access to solar panels that they can see. In personal finance, students can learn about the different costs associated with solar panels and why it is a good investment. Additionally, the robotics team has expressed interest in learning the robotics involved with solar panels. And where can't solar panels be included? There are so many places that they could be added to our curriculum to help us learn. So now we get to you guys. Our city made a pledge to become 100% sustainable by 2035. And it is currently 20% renewable, and it's expected to be 24 by the end of the year. The school district takes up 3.35% of the district's electricity, equivalent to 270 average Michigan homes. So it's a significant chunk of the electricity and is necessary to complete our 100% renewable goal. Being able to get renewable energy in the schools will also set a good example for local businesses and homeowners that is worth looking into and possibly pursuing. So in 2021, the district consumed 3 million kilowatt hours of the city's electricity. Our initial array would be to offset 10% of that amount, equivalent to fully powering both Sheridan and Lincoln elementary schools. That would offset about 0.44% of the city's current non-renewable energy. And this would be a significant step to reaching our city's goal. So the steps we've taken, we have contacted 2 different solar installers, CBS Solar and Peninsula Solar, to get general ballpark estimates of the costs associated. We have held meetings with the school district and Dr. Leslie about possibly finding solutions to get solar into the school. We conducted a student survey about how many students support our idea, and we've collaborated with the climate and clean energy specialist from Groundworks Center, and we have sought funding opportunities through possible government grants.
So while we recognize that we are not industry professionals with solar installations, we still have done our best to come up with a number that we feel represents the amount of resources that would be required for our project. So combining the 2 numbers that of the 2 solar installers that we've spoken to after discussing our site and sort of the array that we would want, we've arrived at the number of $90,000 per percent of the school district that we offset. Although if this is put out for a request for proposal, that cost may be lowered. We've also factored in panel maintenance costs that includes an annual inspection as well as regular cleaning and maintenance. For a roof mount, that comes out to around $5,000 a year, with less for a ground mount. Savings for the array, the district is currently paying $373,000 a year for electricity. An array equivalent to 10% of the district's usage would save $37,000 annually. Using these numbers, the panels will pay themselves off in 24 years. Solar panel warranties typically run 25 years. However, solar panels have been shown to run far beyond the end of their warranty, and the 25-year warranties are set based on panels that are 25 years old. So modern panels will likely run for even longer than that. Over a 40-year time span, we would expect panels to save $363,000 net profit, factoring in the fact that the solar panels would be less efficient towards the end of their lifetime. And then here we have compared a 10% array like the one we were discussing earlier, as well as a 20% array. And we've also calculated the number of homes that these arrays would be equal to.
When we initially presented this to the school board, we recognized that for any investment to be successful, it had to be feasible. And that's one of the reasons we're advocating for solar, is that many Michigan schools have done this and seen great results. We have a few examples on screen. Flushing and Onstead are 2 that have powered themselves completely with solar, and they've seen benefits not just economically and environmentally, but also in the education they can offer and how they can bring that into the community as a force for change. And more locally, we have East Jordan and Pellston, who both have somewhat smaller arrays, but are still going in the right direction. And then Frankfurt is included as a school that is pursuing solar in a similar stage of the process as we are, which shows there's a lot of public will for this kind of change. One thing when we were looking at the other schools is that there's a lot of different ways they go about financing them. It's not just the down payment. They'll go through loans or power purchasing agreements. Many do it through federal and state grants, which is an option we're looking at. And some of the numbers we've seen from other schools have indicated that solar could be even more profitable than our calculations have suggested. I think East Jordan had a return on investment at 18 years, which is even more profitable than what we had calculated. So when we presented before the school board, our proposals was initially a feasibility study. We're confident that the more the board knows about solar, the more they'll see its merits. And pending the success of this study, we advocated for a 10% array within the next 2 years, which would serve as a proof of concept before moving on to a more ambitious 100% electricity offset by 2035. And this would serve to reinforce and match the city's commitment to renewable energy. So in a moment, I'm going to open to questions from the council. If you're a member of the public and have questions or comments, feel free to find us after the meeting. We'll be here, or our contact information is on screen if you would prefer to reach out that way. Members of the council, do you have any questions or comments you wish to
I
share?
have one thing. Could you have the other members of your group stand up and give us their names as well? I think that's important.
Yeah.
You have to give us your name.
I'm Cohen Aldridge, Jr. I'm Ezra Francis, Jr. I'm Emmett Sisson, I'm a sophomore.
Johnston, also a junior.
I'm Levi Jansen, also junior.
I think it's important. You guys deserve as much as you all deserve this. Do you have questions for him? First, I'd like to say, I think this is fantastic what you're doing. Hats off. As you know, city, we identified 2035, hopefully 100% renewable, which is 5 years faster than Traverse City. But I think it's really admirable that you are doing this. And I hope that someday it leads to one of you or all of you sitting up here helping to run the city, because it's obvious you have real care and compassion for what you're involved with. So I'd just like to say thank you. And I know the city council would like to also say stuff to you as well. Mr. Moore.
I actually have a question. Have you investigated at all if any of the other districts use sinking fund money for this purpose?
I'm not familiar with that. No. No, I'm not aware of that.
I would strongly suggest you see if this might fall within sinking fund funding, and you can inquire about that to your superintendent at Petoskey Schools. But anyway, congratulations on all your efforts, truly.
Thank you. We'll look into that.
Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming and presenting. Thanks for your leadership, demonstrating great leadership here. My question is, when do you guys meet? Is this are you meeting regularly?
Yeah, we meet weekly for a little over an hour every Monday. A lot of times we'll meet outside in Zooms if we have a big event coming up. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Reach out to council if there's anything that we can do to support, or if you're running against barriers, things that are going to throw against the wall of problem solving to help you move forward. I encourage you to do so. Thank you.
Great. It went off again.
No, really well presented. Mr. Robbins in the back of the room presented something similar in regard to putting panels on city halls a few years ago, and this was really well done, equivalent to that. And 3 years ago, sadly, your predecessors approached me, and I had to have Zoom calls with them on this topic, and was starting to help them. I think most of them graduated; they were seniors at the time. So I'm really glad that you've got this year and next year to make this happen, and this is really great progress.
Thank you.
Ms. Walker.
you, Mayor. Thank you to the Petoskey High School Sustainability Club for your presentation this evening. Don't be intimidated by the return on investment. I know that those numbers look really daunting and not on the positive tip, but as a municipally owned, a publicly owned utility, we have certain things that that are advantageous to public solar arrays. So the Petoskey Public Schools, the City of Petoskey building, our future DPW building, there'll be plenty of opportunities for public demonstrations of solar projects. So, and we are relying on the brains and the ingenuity of young people like yourselves for battery storage, because that's going to be the real clincher here in Michigan and throughout the nation to be able to capture and store that energy when it is cloudy or dark or raining or winter. So, I have hope in the future that these young minds will be able to figure out the battery storage solution. So thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to seeing these projects come to fruition in the next 10 to 15 years. So, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
I guess you guys deserve a big applause. We invite you to come back in the next while, whenever you get stuff, the next step are going to come and share with the city. Is your teacher?
No, I'm with Rollinger Groundwork Center,
Okay. All
but
right.
I'll be here.
Okay. But thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again. Okay? And you can go now, because I know, or you can stay. I know it was asked, do we go, can we come or go? You have, anybody in the public can stay here as long as they want, or if you feel the need or want to leave, just feel free to do that as well, okay? Thank you again. Our next presentation is to hear from Public Safety Director Adrian Carr, Rocky, concerning the department's honor board authorizing awards to public safety staff, Emmett County EMS staff, Emmett County Sheriff staff, and citizens for also for their service. Rocky.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. I encourage you guys to stay. We are hiring. I understand there is a lot on your agenda tonight, so I'm going to jump right into this. We do yearly awards for officers in several different categories where they deserve some recognition. So in the first category, the Life Savings Award. This includes Lieutenant Michael Parker, PSO Hunter Arnold, PSO Connor Kish, and two EMTs who could not make it here tonight, Chris Krupa and paramedic Chelsea Wigglesworth. On December 16th, 2022, at approximately 9:22 p.m., public safety officers overheard EMS being dispatched to a hotel just outside the city limits. Dispatch advised of an 18-year-old male who appeared unconscious, was purple in color, and bleeding every once in a while. Due to the severity of the circumstances, officers took it upon themselves to respond to the location to assist. Upon arrival, officers found the subject was unconscious, laying face down, was purple in color, had pinpoint pupils, and snoring respirations. Lieutenant Parker administered 3 doses of Narcan, while PSO Arnold and Kish prepared to begin rescue breathing efforts. After approximately 3 minutes, the patient regained consciousness and was able to walk out of the room on his own power to an awaiting EMS cot. Fast forward one day, December 17th, 2022, at approximately 8:23 p.m., officers were dispatched to a similar location for the same 18-year-old male reportedly unconscious and foaming from the nose and mouth. At this incident, officers were assisted by EMS numbers Krupa and paramedic Wigglesworth. PSO Arnold and Kish were the first to arrive on scene, found the patient exhibiting similar symptoms from the prior shift. PSOs administered 2 doses of Narcan. However, the subject was not quick to respond. There was some discussion by personnel on scene with possible seizure or other causes in which the symptoms might be similar. However, through a brief discussion, the explanation of the prior shift, PSOs convinced EMS staff that they were confident that the incident was related to a narcotics episode. Lieutenant Parker placed an oral airway and was instructed by EMS staff to assist with rescue breathing efforts. Once EMS started an IV, the subject was administered 1 more dose of Narcan and regained consciousness. This young life was spared twice through the quick actions and group efforts of all aforementioned professionals on scene. By communicating with one another and working through the incident, the subject was provided another opportunity to change his life's path. With that, Mike Parker. Sir. The next incident is another life savings award. This involves Lieutenant David Schultz, Officer John Dutch, Officer Eric Hoig, and Sergeant Cole Brady, the Emmett County Sheriff's Department. On October 28, 2022, Central Dispatch received a call from a woman who was transporting her husband to McLaren, Northern Michigan, as she believed her husband was possibly deceased. Officers had recently been dispatched to the hospital for an unrelated incident, and Sergeant Brady, with the Emmett County Sheriff's Office, was already on scene. Sergeant Brady observed the vehicle pull into the emergency department ramp and requested additional assistance. Sergeant Brady indicated the man was not breathing and CPR was initiated. Lieutenant Schultz, PSO Dutch, and PSO Hoig arrived on scene to assist. Officers immediately began aggressive CPR in the parking lot, while hospital staff responded with life-saving equipment. The male was loaded onto a cot and brought into the ED, where officers and hospital staff continued life-saving efforts for approximately 20 minutes. At that point, the doctors advised the patient had regained his pulse and he was sent to the cath lab for advanced care. Family later reported that this patient was released and had made a full recovery. Through the quick response and actions of all officers involved, along with a quick dispatch information and dedicated ER staff, this certain tragic incident had an amazing ending. A life was saved. All responding emergency personnel want recognition for an outstanding display of teamwork and actions. Should give these to you, Dave Schultz. Well. And another life savings award, and this is just for Hunter Arnold. On January 16th, 2022, at approximately 1 p.m., PSO Arnold overheard emergency units dispatch to a business located just outside the city limits. Dispatch information indicated a 36-year-old male may have overdosed. Recognizing he might be the closest unit, PSO Arnold requested permission to assist from Emmett County Sheriff's Office and responded swiftly to the scene. Upon arrival, PSO Arnold observed staff performing CPR on the patient. PSO Arnold asked bystanders if Narcan had been administered, and they stated it had not. PSO Arnold performed a rapid assessment, observed the patient was unconscious and had a hypodermic needle laying on the ground next to him. PSO Arnold administered 1 dose of Narcan to the patient's nostril. PSO Arnold then checked the patient's right radial pulse and noted that there was a pulse present. The patient then began breathing more on his own. At that point, PSO Arnold provided rescue breathing efforts as EMS arrived. The patient slowly regained consciousness and started talking to EMS staff prior to transport. Without Officer Arnold's quick response, rapid assessment of the situation, and emergency aid, the subject's chance of survival was extremely low. Officer Arnold's actions on this date were textbook, and he should be recognized for his life-saving efforts. This is a public safety citation for you. I'm not gonna let you hold it back. Lieutenant Todd Bonsall. Shortly after on February 2nd, 2022, public safety was dispatched to multiple reports of two overturned kayakers approximately 150 yards offshore on Little Traverse Bay near Bell Avenue. Witnesses reported the kayakers were yelling for help, and at least one of the persons in the water did not have a life jacket on. Lieutenant Trox arrived on scene and confirmed there were two teenage males in the water attempting to swim to shore. Lieutenant Trox noted one male appeared to be a stronger swimmer and was going to be able to self-rescue. The other young man was struggling to swim any further and was clinging to a floating life jacket. Lieutenant Troxel immediately stowed his cumbersome police gear, donned a department-issued life jacket, and entered the water. Once Lieutenant Troxel reached the subject, the male let go of his life jacket and grabbed onto Lieutenant Troxel. When one life jacket would not be able to hold the weight of two, Lieutenant Troxel was able to calm the man down and instructed him to hold onto the floating vest with two hands. Lieutenant Troxel then assisted the panicking young man to shore. It should be noted this is the second occasion in which Lieutenant Troxel has entered the water of Lake Michigan to effect a This next is a Citizens Award for Max Ann Caldwell, and she could not make it here tonight. However, we are still going to read her actions on this date. On February 15th, 2022, at approximately 9:15 a.m., a physical altercation took place between two students in the females' restroom at the Petoskey High School. After the incident, School Resource Officer Ben Carlson became aware of a video of the fight. There were several females present to view this altercation with their phones at the ready, except one. Once the physical altercation started to take place, Max chose to step in the middle and physically diffuse the situation by pulling the two females apart. For this effort, Max was rewarded with an errant strike to the face, obviously meant for one of the other combatants. Max could have easily stood silent and observed this altercation, but chose to take action. Max's selfless action to stop this violent act from escalating deserves to be recognized. For these actions, Max is hereby awarded a Citizens Award. We will see that she gets it. This is our last award. Yeah, I'll give that to you. And it is a combination of Citizens Awards as well as a public safety commendation. Recipients: PSO Larry Donovan, Citizens Award Hannah Budnick, Susanna Pfeiffer. She was a question mark. If you can make it or not. Okay, gotcha. And is it Budnick?
Budnick.
Okay, sorry. There's a few of them overimposing. On May 12th, 2022, at approximately 2:19 p.m., citizens Hannah Budnick and Susanna Pfeiffer observed a dog that had been left alone in a parked vehicle. The temperature on this day was in the low 80s, and much warmer inside the vehicle, which was not running. They continued to keep an eye on the truck, and when the owner did not return for at least a half hour, Susanna contacted 911. So Donovan responded, and both witnesses provided him with detailed information before pointing out the vehicle. So Donovan could hear the dog inside the vehicle panting loudly and gasping for air. So Donovan used an unlock tool to open the vehicle to remove the dog and get into a much cooler environment. So Donovan attempted to provide the dog water and began cooling him down with ice packs. He noted the dog was not recovering and was still in distress. At this point, the dog was not able to stand on its own power, and his condition appeared to be deteriorating. Realizing time was of the essence, PSO Donovan placed a call to Jensen's Animal Hospital and transported the dog for emergency veterinary care. Upon arrival at Jensen's, the dog was treated for heat exposure due to the extreme heat. The owner was located about an hour after the initial incident. PSO Donovan has earned recognition for his quick response and sound judgment throughout the entirety of this incident. Citizens Hannah Budnick and Suzanne Pfeiffer should also be recognized for noticing danger and acting accordingly. Thanks to their actions, this animal's life was saved. I can't hear you. And that concludes, I have one more that came up last second that I figured I should read. This was sent to me yesterday in a text. And it's extremely brief, but it just shows the caliber of employees that we have. It says, just an FYI, Mike Parker legit saved a kid's life last night. We're down in Lansing for a youth basketball tournament. A kid in the lobby began choking on a piece of food. His mother attempted the Heimlich and was not strong enough. Mike stepped in, and 6 to 7 attempts at the Heimlich, the food was dislodged. Not sure if your department has a life savings award or not, but thought I would pass it along. So it just goes to show that wherever we travel, our training travels with us. I think Mike deserves a round of applause for his actions. And that concludes our awards for tonight. But I would also just like to point out that, our whole department is here to support all the awards tonight. Volumes. Very much.
I would like to say, don't leave yet. This is, to me, always the most exciting time. We get this notification a couple of days on Thursday, what the agenda, we work out an agenda, and knowing that this is coming up, to me, it's the most exciting time because it means life-saving. I can't believe the dog. That's special. Everybody that's got a dog knows what that means to all of us. But thank you, public safety, and I know I'm saying this for city council, and they may want to say something, but thank you for what you do out on the road. You put your life on the line every day. You never know who you're going to deal with, but you do it with honor and with respect for those individuals. And it's what's beautiful about it is you do this with compassion. And just like saving somebody with Narcan, you do this with compassion and because you care about people. So I guess what I'd like to do is say thank you, and I'd like to stand up with everybody and say thank you, officers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rocky.
Thank you.
And thank you. If I could, before, while we still have all of our first responders in the room, this idea was brought to me by Lieutenant Troxel, which really speaks to his character. And I think council will agree. He recommended today would be maybe a good time. We have, as council, as staff, have
have moved Rocky forward from a lieutenant position to public safety director. And we've recognized Rocky at previous meetings, but while everyone's here, I think while our students are here, just to tell you a little bit about Rocky and why he's in the position of public safety director. So Rocky got his undergraduate degree at Lake Superior State University. He's spent the last 23 years in the public safety profession. Went back to school as a working adult, as a parent, and got his master's degree at Central Michigan University. He was one of two internal applicants that interviewed for the public safety director position. The other one, Lieutenant Troxel, which again, I just spoke of. And I think again, Todd coming into my office today and recommending this again speaks very highly of him and his character. But we did a full interview panel. We brought in people from outside of our area and did public interviews. We did a community survey to really try to get the public to engage with us on what they wanted their next public safety director, what type of traits, what type of leadership skills that the community was looking for. And so we tried to be very intentional about this process. And I think it speaks volumes to former director Breed and the workplace atmosphere that he has created within the department, that we had really two highly skilled candidates to choose from. And it was a very difficult decision, a very painstaking decision, to be perfectly honest, but I'm thrilled that to move Rocky into the director position. I look forward to working with him and all of the skills that he provides, the leadership that he provides, the position. And I'm honored and to work alongside him, and certainly look forward to a long career as director with the Petoskey Public Safety Department. So, Rocky, thank you very much. So you can see in the picture, this was, you can see a little bit more lighter hair color. The one to the left is, I believe it's maybe 2010, maybe before that, before he became. So congrats.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Yep. A heck of a sales pitch on you guys today, sticking around here. It's great. Okay, well, once again, I was told you guys are cramming a bunch into this agenda, so I am going to move this right along the best that I can. Hopefully you received your annual report Thursday, and we're just going to hit a few highlights and move through this. So our first slide here shows the amount of calls for service and complaints that we handled, and we had 229 total arrests, 56 felony arrests, and 173 misdemeanor arrests in 2022. Next slide, please. And this is just a comparison from the last 5 years. And you can see in Petoskey and Bay Harbor, we're down just a little bit in numbers, but we are trying to get more specific with our numbering. There for a while, it was if you made a phone call or if you did some follow-up and things like that, we were pulling numbers. But now it's if you had some type of action. It's not just a 911 hang-up call or it's a fire run that was canceled before our truck left the fire hall. It is, what did you do? Did you do something to deserve to pull a number? So we're trying to get a little bit more specific. I realize this is number-based, however, if we're just pulling a number for a phone call, I don't think that really counts. Next slide just shows what we have handled and a breakdown of what we have. And you can see the top is actually, the first column is Petoskey and the second column is Bay Harbor. It's kind of blocked out a little bit, but a lot of ambulance assists. Few juvenile complaints. You can go to the next slide. A lot of suspicious situations took place in 2022. 700 plus traffic stops. A lot of unlocks. People like to start their cars in the morning and forget things inside there and run their cars up in the wintertime. So we're one of the few departments that still provide that service, which I think is a really good service. Citizens seem to enjoy it, especially if there's a child or a dog locked into them. So our next slide, we handled 159 investigations related to 164 nuisance ordinance complaints in 2022. But I think that's the next sense that's very important is all but 4 investigations were closed by voluntary compliance. That's really what we're pushing for. We don't want to have to write a bunch of tickets. And those were 3 skateboard tickets and 1 food truck violation that did not have a license. So IPMC, we only have 6 that are still active, and we closed 16, and that is the International Property Maintenance Code. And I believe the ones that we have open are some housekeeping around some of the houses, shingles fails, window issues, things like that that are still open. We were able to close all of our IFC complaints this year. We had 6 of those. And those dealt with missing smoke detectors, expired hood systems in restaurants and such. And I believe we had a couple that were burning leaves and things like that, but we did not issue any citations for any of those. They were just, once again, compliant. Our community connections. Unfortunately, we lost Jeff Glasscock just shortly after this picture was taken, and a celebration of life. And we took it upon ourselves. Jeff was a great supporter of the Petoskey Public Safety Department and basically Petoskey in general. You would see him show up with his hard hat if they were putting in roads and things like that, and people would look around and wonder if they hired somebody new. And a quick story with Jeff, he found out who provided our fire gear somehow and ordered himself fire gear, and we received the bill, fortunately in time enough to cancel it. But we did get him a fire jacket that has his name on the back, and we took him for a fire truck ride that day, and it was really a special day. The second photo there, Serpico of Gaylord and Sheboygan donated a bunch of bags for children for Fire Safety Prevention Week. It was very much appreciated. And then I get the pleasure of assisting the YMCA up at Ottawa School. We doused them on their last day of school on a really warm day, or the last day of camp, I should say, which was described as one of the kids as the best day ever. So that was really fun. We were able to return to our open house, the 11th open house that we had in June. And it was probably the most well-received open house that we've had to date. We estimated 500 people, but it could have been more. Same kind, we had seemed like more participation too. We did have a dunk tank that had one of the officers in the dunk tank. So we'll see if we can repeat that, but it seemed like that was very popular. And we were joined by numerous other departments in the area. We also had our first Citizens Academy since COVID took that away for a couple of years. I believe we had 14 participants in the Citizens Academy, and then they were an amazing group, always asking questions, just made the time fly. And it was great to see the instructors' faces at these Citizens Academy nights. It brings back a little bit of life. And some of these guys who do the continuous day in and day out police and fire, and it really rejuvenates a lot of our employees to participate in these Citizens Academy. The next slide is just a little bit about our detectives position. Handled 2022 continued investigation on 111 complaints, worked on 153 new cases, reopened 11, obtained 35 felony arrest warrants, 43 misdemeanor arrest warrants, 18 search warrants, and assisted Petoskey schools on 11 complaints. So he was extremely active and very busy, made some very good arrests and search warrants. Next is a couple of new faces that you'll see out there. On the left is Officer Connor Kish, who graduated Ferris State University, where he got his bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He worked for Blackman Leone for a short period of time, and then I like to say we rescued him up here. So he just completed his field training and is on his own probably for the last month or so. And then we also hired Alexis Peacock, who served as a public safety cadet for us in the summertime. She also went to Ferris State University, got her associates in criminal justice, and then graduated Kirkland's Police Academy. And your next slide, you'll see her out carrying cones out in the field. And this is just a little blurb on the Police Academy that Kirkland's offers. 17-week academy, operates 5 days a week. We did sponsor Lexi through this academy. And when on completion of the academy, you are MCOLS certifiable. So it really, which is a little bit crazy because every single person in this academy was sponsored except for one who had 3 offers for any department she wanted to go to pretty much. So, which leads us into recruitment. I just added a short bit on recruitment. Basically, it just says we're struggling recruiting people. There were 23.6 more retirements in 2021 compared to 2019 and 42.7% more resignations within the same time. And we've taken a more active approach to recruitment. Lieutenant Troxel is spearheading this project, has been promoting the department on several career expos, law enforcement graduations, and school events. This process continues. And I can tell you, Just today, I was in a group email where I told them that I could not make a meeting on Thursday because I had to, because we're doing our hiring interviews here. And I was contacted 2 minutes after I sent that email by a couple chiefs to say, give us the names of those you don't hire. And that's how tough it is up here right now, getting people. The next slide is our training. We did a ton of training last year, and just to touch on a few of them: hazmat, active shooter, arson investigation, firearms, defensive tactics, de-escalation, implicit bias, use of force, and autism awareness. We also hosted a field training officer course here where we trained 3 of our officers to become field training officers to train those that we hire. So we logged law enforcement 1,400, a fire around 1,100, and 650 hours of training. We also had the Coast Guard here. I'm sure you guys probably saw the helicopter land, and they had a great exercise right here in our own backyard. And accreditation, I'm not going to beat you up on this anymore. This was a big thing. You guys are probably, we'll bring this back in 2025 when we do our reaccreditation, but that did take place in 2022. And we're very proud of that. Lastly, we have our EMS and fire calls for service, and they have remained pretty consistent over the last 5 years, where we had 938 in 2022. And I don't know why I chose to end my last slide with fire loss, but this was the Rose Street fire, November 15th. 2022. But there is a couple really good highlights to this fire. We were dispatched at 3 a.m. It took us less than 2.5 minutes to get on scene, which is an amazing response. The flames were already showing. We did save the 2 houses on each side of this house, but you can tell it was a very hot, very sustained fire. And the fire inspector is working with the insurance and fire inspector to determine the cause of fire. And this is becoming, they've already met once. I did find out today that there's many moving parts because Ryobi, anything, DeWalt, anything that had a battery within the garage area, all the representatives want to be in the same room together. So it's been very difficult to try and get all of these people, insurance companies from every single house that had any damage in the area. So later this month, they are all going to get in a room. They're going to show up at this place and try and determine the cause so we can move forward with it. And lastly, I haven't highlighted here, Gina Ellenberger put this whole thing together. I'm just here reading what her work has done. She gets all the credit for this. I tried to convince her to be here tonight to take some of the credit. I don't know the amount of credit that Director Breed has given her over the years, but this is definitely her baby, and she does an amazing job on this annual report, and just wanted to thank her and give her some credit for that. And that concludes our annual report from 2022. And I should mention that's Director Breed's annual report. So thank you very much, Council. I appreciate it. It is.
I'd like to say thank you for stepping in, applying, you were the man for the job. And we're very happy that you have accepted some kind of responsibility. And I feel like Matt Reed never left because you have harmony that you're going to instate them basically. And there's a passion, there's a passion for people, lead your way, I know it. And that's what it's all about. It's not arguing people, but it is to work with people. And when you talk about violations and all that for being taken care of, because people complied and gave them the opportunity and the instructions how to do what you requested them to do. They did it, you let me drop it, and no tickets given. And I think that's really commendable to the citizens of Petoskey that we have a force you guys. So thank you very much and continue to see you next year when we come back.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Just more.
Just quickly, I really want to echo your kudos to Miss Ellenberger, because she does do a beautiful job on this. The first one I saw was last year because I was new to council. But I also want to say that, you know, earlier tonight we were talking about equity and inclusion, and I'm all about, I like the words, but I like to see the action as well. And I noted here just a few segments. You said our mission remains the same, to serve our community with fairness, equality, and respect for human dignity. In another section, we're committed to creating and maintaining an active community partnership with those we serve, partnership being the key word. And finally, we'll foster an atmosphere where department members treat each other fairly, honestly, and equally. And to me, that models the behavior that you want to see in others. So I just want to highlight those things and say it's very much appreciated.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Carr, thank you for the report. And I want to reemphasize how great it is that the level of engagement with the public that the Public Safety Department has with our community is excellent. And I thank you for that. And one question I had is, does the Public Safety Department have a way for the public to, if they had a criticism or complaint against the department, is there a way for the public to raise those complaints, and do you tally and keep track of those?
We have, actually, you can go online right on the city website. There is a complaint where it comes directly to myself. We also have the forms at the front desk. Yes, and those are maintained. And we actually put something together at the end of the year to it's in our accreditation. So we do keep track of all of those and make sure that all of them are addressed.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Wagner.
I echo what everyone else said. I'm thrilled with Mr. Horn hiring you and a great selection. And you should know, don't forget at next year's open house, the mayor's offered to go on the dunk tape.
Excellent.
I'm not gonna be here this week. I will gladly ask that the mayor pro tem, Mr. Wagner, would take my spot, okay?
All in favor of the mayor being in the dining room.
I'm willing to do it because I believe that much in you guys. I have attended every one of your open houses down here, eating hot dogs with you guys. This is such an enjoyment. If you have not been able to attend it down here, do you know when the date is yet?
I believe we are shooting for
Of June. It is well worth attending. Not only are the hot dogs good, but I'll tell you, to see the smile on kids' faces with parents here, whether it is holding the fire, a hose and putting out some, knocking a pretend window back, to see how you'll use the hose. There's an ambulance. I think there's everything and anything is here. And I hope that students, you as well, come down. You saw that June 10th, a Saturday. It's well worth coming down and seeing what our public safety does. You get a tour of the facilities if you want, but you also have a chance just to see what they really do for our job. Miss Walker.
Thank you. Thank you, Rocky, and thank you for your leadership in the department. Hiring you for this position really was in the best interest of the city of Petoskey, and I look forward to many more years of your service, and thank you for making our community feel safe, because that is really the most important thing that we do here on city council, other than, policy creation and those things, our annual budget and making sure that our community feels safe here, both our businesses, residents, and our visitors. So thank you so much for that.
Students, I know that when you take your government class, are you taking that yet? No, or the one next year or later on. Usually you have to attend here for what, an hour, couple hours? Did you know about that? Well, it's on the horizon, okay? And I'm willing to sign off that you came and spent your whole city council time here, if that will help you out, because you've been a great audience here. Now we're going to show you what happens next, and it's called the consent agenda. And it's the adoption of a proposed resolution that would confirm approval of the following: the February 20th, 2023 regular session city council meeting minutes, as well as acknowledge a receipt of certain administrative transactions that have happened since February 20th, 2023. And we're also adding in authorizing a contract, what we do with David Hoffman Landscape and Nursery of Petoskey in the amount of $27,590 for the planting of trees at various locations through the city, as well as receipt of the 2022 Planning Commission annual report pursuant to Act 33 of the Michigan Public Acts of 2008, Article 2, Section 125, 3819. So I take it to City Council for approval for this consent agenda, or changes or questions. Mr. Moore.
I have one, I guess, addition to the minutes, I would say.
Page.
The very first page. It's under the Oprah district approval, where I indicated on the record I was doing a disclosure for conflict of interest purposes. I just wanted to add there that on the record I indicated I was advised by the city attorney that I had no conflict of interest. So if that addition could be made, because it currently reads as though I was making a proclamation that I had no conflict of interest. So I would ask for that addition, please.
Get that covered? Yep. Okay, do I have a motion? Do I have any other questions or changes? Then I'll entertain a motion with the changes that were brought up by Mr. Moore.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, and the second comes to
Second.
Miss Wagner Walker. So I have a motion from Mr. Wagner and a second from Miss Walker. Any other discussions? To raise your hand. Yes, go.
Just very briefly, I wanted to say on the record, relative to the Planning Commission annual report, I wanted to commend Chair Robson, on her continued commitment to ongoing training, and all the members of the Planning Commission who take trainings. They're all volunteers. They do this all on their own time, and they're to be commended for continuing to participate in trainings.
Mr. Shields.
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman Demore. I want to echo that and say that they've been putting time extra special meetings this last year, so I wanted to commend them for that. And then also, I have some questions about the tree planting contract. I think it's going to be better for maybe a specific meeting with Manager Horn, just some of those questions about maybe future discussions we can have about the care of our trees and how that can come into these contracts. So I'll say that publicly. I have some questions, and I'll take those.
You're wishing to share those with city council members?
No, they're not formulated yet. We're basically in the sense that wondering if we can increase the budget for these to include some additional care versus that include maybe fertilizing various nutrients or extra care. I've received some complaints about the care of our trees in our community, and so wondering if there's more we can do. And then I guess it's discussion on the cost of those.
I know in the past our budget was $90,000, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And city manager will take a look at that. You can meet with him and discuss it. So I have a motion from Mr. Wagner and a second from Ms. Walker.
Ready?
Ready?
Wagner,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Demore,
Aye.
Shields.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes. Consent agenda passed unanimously. Public comment. This is your chance to come up, give us your full name, full address, If you wish to address council with something you would like to tell us or say to us, this is your opportunity to step forward. This is something that happens every meeting. Sometimes people do and sometimes they don't. Is there anybody that wishes to speak to council? Okay,
Mayor Murphy,
where?
Kathleen Bickford,
Oh,
Grove
God.
Street. Pardon me.
One second, Kathy, 1 second.
Thank you.
Thank you, students.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, appreciate it.
1 second, Kathy.
I'm waiting.
I think it's Liv's.
You get it open.
He's unmuted, so.
Okay. You're on, Miss Bickford.
Okay. I have the same concerns about the dwelling adjacent to me, to the west, Airbnb. I was visited 23rd. I was walking back from the grain train and the former police chief was standing waiting for me on the sidewalk. I don't know. Well, I do know that he told me that I'm being filmed and recorded and it's being fed to the police, the city police. It's against the law for a camera to be pointed at anyone's property and to record people. I want it to stop. The parking situation has not changed. It's only getting worse. I called the police over the weekend. I went out to take my garbage out. There's a car in front of my house. There's a car in front of the Airbnb park going the wrong direction, not facing stop sign. And then a car directly across from my driveway. It's very difficult for me to back out of my driveway. There's a lot of traffic and that only makes it worse. All these vehicles belong to the Airbnb next door. I don't know why the city is providing limited parking to this business. I don't know if it's this way with the other Airbnbs, but it really shouldn't be happening. In January, my youngest son was up visiting and shoveling my driveway. And a woman was standing in the front window of this Airbnb, pointing at him and laughing. It was very disturbing. My son tell me this is what he experienced when he came up to help his mother. These vehicles, oftentimes, it may not be their tires on the sidewalk, but their vehicles are hanging over the sidewalk and blocking anybody who wants to walk up and down the sidewalk, and it happens all day, every day. Children going to school. I saw an 80-year-old, she had to be 80, trying to cross the street down by the St. Francis Credit Union with her walker, and she was crossing the street. Now, had she come up and had to what? Around the back of a car to get back on the sidewalk because people think it's okay. And the young man that got the ticket, police did ticket him. He made sure he left his car and parked almost completely over the sidewalk last night. And they left very early in the morning. It's become a real sick game. It's against state law to park over a sidewalk. People shouldn't be making their own laws and how it relates to where they can park. I talked to a city administrator in Northern Michigan and they really clamped down on the Airbnbs, and he offered to help me to figure out how, I can go about addressing this issue. I don't want to be recorded. I don't want my driveway recorded. I don't want to be filmed and I don't want it sent to the police. I am not breaking the law. I'm obeying the law. And if this continues, as I said last time, but I will follow through, I'm just going to file a complaint with the Attorney General's office. I do not feel safe on my property. I feel as if I'm being pushed out of my home because I disagree with this Airbnb. And I read in the paper from the 25th of February, that you're considering allowing more. It's a mistake. I just talked to someone I work with. They make over 6 figures. Husband's been working downtown at a place for 14 years. Can't find a house to buy. Airbnbs are a big driver behind that. And I'm asking the city council to not allow any more Airbnbs to be opened up in the city limits of Petoskey. Thank you.
Ms. Bickford,
Yes,
who was recording?
people that own 315 Grove Street. They have
No,
a camera.
No, who was recording you?
Whoever, people that own 315 Grove Street, they have a camera outside of their house. And it also records voices.
I have a camera facing my driveway and the street, and it's for my public safety.
Mhm.
And I believe it's not illegal.
You can record, you can on your own driveway, but you can't another person's.
You can't what?
It's an invasion of privacy to record someone's property.
Okay. Well, we'll look into that. We have documented here your concerns. We will look into that. Have you put a sign up? I mentioned this.
I was looking at them online the other day, and I will be putting signs up on my property. I don't want people coming on my property. I don't want them. I've had people come up and bring their dogs right up my sidewalk and try to do their business.
On the sidewalk.
No, my property. The little
yeah.
sidewalk
Yeah,
comes to my house.
right.
On the city sidewalk. But before I sign up, I want to thank police for answering the calls. And I also want to thank the people that plow the streets, because visitors at this place before Christmas time had to shovel themselves out. Then they came over and helped me with their children. They were astounded on how many times the plow truck went by, keep the city streets clean. I said, it's always that way. You do a fantastic job. It makes it very.
I went by your house 2 days ago. And the purpose of that, believe it or not, was I was looking at some old notes that I had taken when you had talked prior to this a year ago. And I think, I know I suggested, and I know another neighbor that had to put a sign up and saying private drive with an arrow to their driveway. And it was very, it helped them by making people understand that that was a private driveway and it's not theirs to utilize. It is against the law. It's against the law for a car to park opposite on the wrong side of the road. Your tires by state law have to be, your passenger tires have to be against the curb.
Right.
It's
a hazard. Sometimes you can't pick up your lights, even though they're bright enough, tail lights at this time of year. Then you're coming at their headlights. There's nothing reflecting.
I don't know what your backing up skills are with your car, but I will tell you this, I do not pull into my driveway forward. I back into my driveway every time so that way when I'm coming out, I don't have a problem getting out. I'm not worried about running over children or dogs or kids or people walking or down the sidewalk or the street. I always back in. I'm just trying to give you a couple suggestions.
I do that, particularly in the winter time.
Okay.
It is very difficult to see around a big vehicle in the driveway next door, and children who walk up and down the sidewalks all the time, and they play, etc.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to hit anyone.
Okay. We'll have city manager look into it.
All right, thank
We'll
you.
talk to public safety, our new public safety director, Officer Carr. So,
Okay, thank you.
okay. Have a good evening, Ms. Bickford. Anyone else wish to address council? We're going to city managers updates.
Very quickly, just a few things to highlight. Being the first meeting of the month, I want to highlight some employees with birthdays and work anniversaries for the month of March. Joe Conti, Parks and Rec. Joe takes care of our buildings and grounds, does a wonderful job. His birthday was March 2nd. Terry Barrett, Public Works, March 8th. I'm not sure who Sarah is, but she's got a birthday coming up. And so don't forget that. Note to self. Jonathan Zoran, water wastewater, March 25th, and Wyatt Putnam with electric, March 28th. Work anniversaries, Sydney Nielsen, water wastewater, celebrating her 2-year anniversary. Kendall celebrating his 6 years as Parks and Rec director. And Tyler Hart in Parks and Rec is celebrating 4 years this month. As you are aware, last week we had pulled together the Planning Commission for a special meeting to set a public hearing for a planned unit development preliminary rezoning plan for 1420 Standish, otherwise known as the Michigan Maple Block site. So this essentially is kind of resetting what was done in February, just making sure that we're administratively checking all the boxes that are appropriate for that rezoning. So that will happen. Notices have gone out to surrounding property owners. So that public hearing will happen on Thursday, March 16th at 6 p.m. This week, actually tomorrow, we kind of start our process of the Board of Review. Really does their heavy lifting over the next couple of weeks. Tomorrow night is our organizational meeting with the Board of Review, and then that's followed up next week on Monday and Tuesday at the times listed on the slide that folks can come and appeal their assessments during those time slots and make appointments and see the Board of Review at those times. Just quickly, I really wanted to hit the first couple items on this status update. I sent out a notice last week about the 316, 318 Lake Street project. I'm happy to say that the MSF board allocated funding for that project to move forward to the tune of about $1.4 million. This creates residential opportunities above this retail location. So we're excited to see that project finally get off the ground. Wanted to talk briefly. Sarah's been doing a lot of work on considering moving our public polling location from the current location that we've done our public polling at the event center. What's the name of it? Grand Unity. We're exploring very high level currently, but I wanted you all to know that we're exploring potentially trying to see if we can make this happen within City Hall, utilizing this location, utilizing the community room, potentially using the facility next door, the apparatus bays next door. Obviously looking to save money first and foremost, but also from an administration standpoint, we have a lot of back and forth that we do when we get ballots that come in that we're driving back and forth to the facility. It would be ideal if we could keep it all underneath the City Hall umbrella from an administration standpoint. So Sarah's been doing a lot of due diligence, looking at ADA concerns and parking concerns. And so we're not 100% sure that this is doable, but I wanted you to know that we're exploring it. And if anyone had any reservations about us moving forward, now would be the time to kind of tell us, we want to stay where we're at, and that's fine. And that's what we'll do. But this is just again, a very high level exploration to see if this is even possible at this point in time. And Sarah's doing some due diligence on that. I don't know, Sarah, if you want to provide any more updates at this point.
Just, I echo what Shane said. If you guys don't know, your body has to approve polling location changes. It has to be, we can't change at a minimum 60 days.
Thank you. Can't change polling locations at a minimum of 60 days prior to an election. We do have one in November 7th. And it will only be for wards 1 and 3, unless for some reason we have a citywide millage, countywide millage. But as of right now, it's just wards 1 and 3, and then our AV County board. So that's will likely be the process every odd year, if you will, based on the terms that changed. I think it's every 6th year or 7th there, we won't have an election like we used to, just because the way that all the terms fell. So like Shane said, again, it's all preliminary looking because we do have to, the State Bureau of Elections provides a ADA compliance worksheet checklist. So I've already kind of done a mock setup in this room, in that room, and downstairs in the basement. Obviously, if we used one of our bays, we would, remove all the equipment and the fire trucks. But it's my understanding, previous Altieri said when he first started, I believe, and maybe you guys that have been around a lot longer than I have, we did have polling locations here, maybe not all of them, but one, but for sure the fire station, and then a couple of the schools. So again, the biggest part, cost would be nice for the city taxpayers, but holistically, logistically, I think if we could make it work, I think it's ideal. There's more staff here that can help. And the security of things, of ballots going back and forth as far as absentee ballots, closing at the end of the night is a big deal. I mean, our workers are there at least another hour, but if we have more election inspectors to help and or clerk, staff, deputies to help, I think it overall would be beneficial. And just another comment, before Al and I and Audrey had this discussion for the last few years, that we were seeing the need, let's say, of looking at exploring the option to come back to City Hall. So
what is the cost right now that we are spending on that?
So for every election, just for the Unity Center, and they do feed us, it's roughly $3,250, like $3,500 per election. So it's about, yeah, I think it's like $2,250 just for the facility.
That's just for one election.
One election.
So then we have it in May usually, right?
Sometimes, but I mean, next year we'll have at least 3, could be 4. So
different times.
Correct, because you have the presidential primary end of February or the first part of March that hasn't been decided.
So it could run up to $12,000
just for the facility. Doesn't even pay for the election inspectors.
They don't increase the price of it as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Moore.
So, Ms. Beck, I'm sure you're already doing this, but you're looking at these spaces with an eye toward, for example, 2024, when the turnout is so much bigger than it would be with Ward 1 and Ward 3. So
I am, and if you all know, proposal 22-2 did pass, and that means 9 days of early voting, which we have very little guidance from the state as of right now. But what we're seeing is, our absentee ballots have increased significantly in the last 2 years for sure. And I foresee that to continuing to happen. And then as far as the 9 days early voting, not saying that everyone's going to use it, but I would imagine perhaps that make it utilized as well. And maybe it's 100 less people that may walk in the door. But we all know that it still will be busy during those busier elections. So I've asked around staff, obviously it may be a disruption a day at City Hall, but at the same time, I'll also say the state says that the clerk's office has to be open until 8 p.m. on election day to register voters. So we have someone here anyway. And that 9 days of early voting, someone will have to be here also if it's not within the 8 to 5 parameters. So that's also something.
And then you could, am I correct, you could use an adjacent building for the AV counting room?
You could, it doesn't have to be at the same location. We just, again, logistically with one clerk and limited staff that helps me or that knows the process. It's nice to kind of be on one location because otherwise the in-person polls would be waiting for me if I was here or vice versa. So until we get more people trained, but so.
Thank you.
It's been a good exercise. It's been neat to see how, because we've had this room completely emptied, we had the community room completely emptied and people helping move things around and kind of reimagine where things could go. And so we've had Mike and his crew look at parking scenarios and how that all could work out from a handicap accessibility standpoint. So it's been a kind of all hands on deck looking at this from all different angles. So the end result could be that we just can't make it happen, and that's okay. But we just wanted you to know that we're working on this as an option.
Parking may be an issue,
right?
Right, so that's all going to be looked at the entire vicinity, so. And one other note, we also are required to inform the voters of any polling location change, so. You know, in the off years, it may make sense to be here, but then we also have the cost of mailing ID cards to every single voter to say your polling location has changed, and then you would constantly be doing that every other year, so that's not really conducive either, so. Anyway, just a heads up.
Is there another? We can keep going.
Oh, you don't want to do this?
Just wanted to update you one more time that we are seeking resident feedback. I was able to get the news media to do a quick story on this. We did have quite a good response from that. I do have hard copies on the table that you all can take with you to get that feedback to us. So that will remain open until the 17th. If it looks like we're still getting some good response, we can extend that as needed. But that's currently how it's set up to close on the 17th at 5 p.m. So we encourage folks to take advantage of that and provide us that feedback. I think that's it for me.
Okay, any questions, council, for the city manager? I want to say the board of review is probably the hardest board to fill. It is by far. And we've got some competent people in there now. I intend to stop over just to thank them at some point when they meet. They give up a lot of time. They give up a training time, and then they've twice a year, 9 to 3, and then 3 to 9 o'clock at night. So that's probably one of the more committed boards that gets no accolades. So I just like to say thanks to them. Okay. Now we're going to old business. Adoption of an amended resolution that would support an obsolete property rehabilitation exempt certificate application for property tax ID, commonly known as 424 Emmett Street.
Yeah, just very quickly, I do apologize. This is back in front of you again. As I packaged up what we did last meeting, sent it off to Department of Treasury for their review. They got back with me and said, we have one box that we weren't able to check on your resolution. And so I apologize. The highlighted section, the highlighted whereas is the new piece that we had to have. We had to show what the time commitment was for the project. So I arbitrarily selected 2 years from issuance. If that's something you want to adjust, certainly this body can do that. I kind of went by what was done last time, but this was unfortunately something that was missed. And again, I apologize for that.
Easy to do with all the T's and that. Ms. Walker.
I do have a question, Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
So for this Oprah resolution, the previous Oprah resolution that we granted for the 316 and 318, there was no time frame on that one. So Was that because they've changed the format for that, or there's a requirement now in place that didn't exist previously with 316 and 318?
I believe, as I looked back on that, I believe that that same whereas was on that resolution 2 years.
Okay,
I believe, I'd have to double check
Okay.
for sure.
all right.
I think it was too.
I'd be happy to make a motion to approve I'd be happy to make a motion to approve the resolution with the addition of that this project must be completed within 2 years of issuance of a Petoskey zoning permit by the city planner.
Support.
I have a motion from Ms. Walker, a second from Ms. Demore. Any other council discussion? I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Walker? Yes. Demore? Aye. Shields?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. We have one new business to cover, and that's the adoption of a proposed resolution that would approve Michigan Municipal Employees Retirement System, which is called MERS. Administrative Services Agreement concerning final average compensation calculations. I turn it over to City Manager Shane Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is on, really, as we looked to elevate Director Carr to his position from his lieutenant position. He was going from a union scenario to a non-union scenario. As you know, we made a change across the board with non-union back in 2017, I believe it was January of 17. So the concern was, as we initially talked to MERS, was that Rocky's or Director Carr's multiplier that he was working under previously was higher than what he is going into as a non-union employee. So the concern was, how does that get treated when he looks at his final average compensation? So final average compensation is those highest consecutive wages that you earn over, in our case, it's a 3-year period, 36 months. So initially they were telling us, well, Rocky's going to have to go back to 2017 at the lower multiplier, which if you're put yourself in Rocky's shoes, you're getting a little bump in pay, you're getting much more responsibility, and now you're getting less of a benefit from a pension standpoint. Why would you, as an internal employee, go through that process? So I didn't like that necessarily, that answer. So we huddled with MERS again and asked them to relook at this. And so they came up with, which I'm not sure why this didn't come up initially, but so they call it a benefit by effective date. So essentially what that means is all of what Rocky has earned to date is set aside, frozen, if you will. So going forward, as of his effective date, which was February, I don't know, was it February 1st? So going forward, February 1st forward, he would be on all the non-unions multiplier, current multiplier, as everyone went through that process. So he is going to have the same multiplier that all non-union have, but he'll be able to have that period between 2017 and 2023, that 6-year period where he could have that higher multiplier. Otherwise, they were saying he would have to go back to 2017 at the reduced multiplier. So a lot of discussion, but the take-home message here is this is really for anyone across the board that's moving from a union situation to a non-union situation. So it's not just for Director Carr, it's for anybody. Their benefit is going to be calculated at the time of that transition, that change, instead of arbitrarily going back to a date that in 2017. So that, I think, is more conducive to internal promotions versus really telling an internal candidate, well, we really want you to have this job, but you're going to have to take a reduced benefit. And not only that, you're going to have to go back to 2017 when that action happened. So that is kind of convoluted way to say we're trying to make this situation more conducive to internal considered, promotions internally. So
Do I have a motion or possible discussion? Mr. Shields.
Make a motion to approve the proposed resolution.
Support. I have a motion from Mr. Shields, second from Mr. Wagner. Any other discussion, council? There being none, I'll go to Sarah Beck for roll.
Shields.
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Demore. Aye. Walker. Yes. Murphy.
Yes. Now for city council comments, we'll go to Ward 1, Demore.
I got this newsletter in the mail. I was gonna start today. Yes. With our tax notices, and I just wanted to extend compliments to our new assessor because I thought this was kind of brilliant. Because it pretty much explains in plain English, which I still do speak. The questions that I have every single year when I look at this tax statement, I always have the same questions. So I just wanted to extend kudos for that. I thought that was really good. And we also got an email from him, email outreach that I thought was very informative as well. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Ward 2, Mr. Shields.
Had 4 hearty souls come to the Ward 2 town hall meeting last week during the blizzard. At 8 o'clock at night, who scheduled something at 8 o'clock at night in the winter when it's completely dark? It was a great, I wondered why you were so late. It was a great discussion for an hour. And I want to encourage those who couldn't make it to feel free to reach out to me, and we'll continue discussions and relate some of the concerns and questions that were brought up our discussion to manager and when appropriate to council. And also I want to thank city manager for coordinating with the urban deer management professionals who will be presenting at our next meeting, and encourage anybody from the public. And Ward 2 wants to submit some questions ahead of time. I will be reaching out to gather some of those questions. That's it.
Ward 3, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Friday was an incredible day. Started out at a Coast Guard retirement in St. Ignace for the Coast Guard chief. And Senator DeMoose sat next to me and kind of whispered that we just been approved for $10 million for the community college. That's going towards trades and a couple other areas to upgrade our facility. It was a big victory in Lansing for our area. And the retirement, I've never been to a military retirement, was just incredible. Actually, Senator DeMoose read a letter from the governor and lieutenant governor recognizing Tyler Benson, and he and his wife Christy, who moved here, I think during COVID, if I remember right. You probably know that they haven't been here long. I've gotten to know them really well in the last year, and their kids, Olivia, Charlotte, Annie, and Parker, are incredible humans to have here. And after being in the military for 23 years, being basically told you're moving again and moving again, they refer to Petoskey as their forever home. And one of the good stories, they actually found a house right up by the college. They're involved all over. He said Tyler's taking a month off, and then he starts working for Camp Daggett as one of their directors. I think he's organizing all their events. And the mayor will remember Tyler Benson. He's running a little Cub Scout troop, and the mayor had a great time with them, and his son Parker still remembers it so fondly. And I think they're just going to be great people in this community. Keep an eye out for the Bensons.
I know his father sent me a note that he wanted to be mayor someday, and so
Parker, yeah.
I was very honored. And how about Ward 4, Mr. Johnson?
Here this evening, Mayor. Thank you so much.
And I'd say, it's just an honor serving you guys. I don't say that enough, but I know you guys feel the same about each other. What a great city we have. What a great staff we have. Shane's doing a great job. Sarah Beck's doing the great job she's always done for how many years now? 20, 30. 30. See you. So There being no further business to come before this council, I call this meeting adjourned at 8:42.